Hello and welcome to Football Now, a new YouTube channel where we'll be looking at the upcoming round of Premier League fixtures, talking you through the odds and making our own predictions. Before we look at the odds, I'm here joined by Connor. Connor, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay. I mean, I've got to talk about Tottenham in my just the Arsenal top. So, but yeah, I'll get through it. I'm sure.
Can you start us off by talking us through the odds? How's it looking?
Yeah, well, I mean, as you'd expect, Spurs are absolutely massive favourites. I mean, just looking at the odds now, you're getting 3 to 10 to beat Sheffield United. As an Arsenal fan, it hurts me to say that Spurs are looking really, really good. I think I'm going to slow this down now. Angie Postecoglou, I still butchered it. Angie Postecoglou has been absolutely fantastic for them. I think he's been a bit of an underrated manager. He's done well in Australia. He did well at Celtic. He's doing really well for Spurs now. And they've lost Harry Kane. I mean, he was their focal point for so long. I was a bit worried as well because Son wasn't the best last season. Richarlison has just really struggled to get any sort of Premier League goals. But at the moment, it doesn't seem to be affecting them. Sheffield have just come up from the Championship. Um, I do think Tottenham will win, but 11 to 1 on anyone in the Premier League, I really think is worth looking at. I'm not saying they're going to get anything for it, but if you played this game 11 times, I think Sheffield win at least one of them. But yeah, Tottenham just looks so good. I mean, the two players that really stand out for me, James Maddison for 40 million from Leicester, absolutely fantastic value. I can't believe more teams didn't go in for him. He's just been incredible. He's had a great start to the season. Got me a lot of points in my FPL, so I am happy about Spurs for that. But also Bissouma as well. He came from Brighton, and I don't think he really did too much last season. But this season, I think is been completely reborn. And I think the fact that these other players are stepping up, that their leader Harry Kane has gone, has been needed. Sheffield got the first point of the season last time out against Everton. I'm looking at that game and I'm thinking you kind of need to be winning those sorts of games if you're going to stay up, because I think Sheffield will struggle this season in the Premier League. I don't think this is the game where they're going to get any points, although they did only lose to Manchester City 2-1, and they really could have got something from that game. So I do think Spurs probably will nick it, but 11-2 for a draw, or even 11-1 for a Sheffield win, I think there's value in that. I really, like I said, I think 11-1 for any team in the Premier League is great value, and they're they're a hard team to break down. And I think without Harry Kane, Spurs, I expect them to win, but it's not a foregone conclusion. So Sheffield might have something up their sleeve.
Yeah, you mentioned you think if they play it 11 times, Sheffield United will win one. They did meet in the FA Cup in March, and Sheffield United did win 1-0. I know it's a very different Tottenham side now. It's a Tottenham side still acclimatising to life without Harry Kane, but they have made a positive start so far. I think it's fair to say in their last game out, a 5-2 win away at Burnley. I think they're very buoyed by the return to form of Heung-min Son as well, who got a hat-trick in
Yeah.
that game, who struggled a bit last year. But we see it there.
So
They're
look at that
second in the
tape. I
table.
don't want to look at it. I can't look at it. I can't look at it.
They're sitting second in the table after 4 games. I think they'd have snatched your hand off for that, especially after losing their main man in Harry Kane. I think with Tottenham, we were speaking there off camera. The worry is as we get deeper into the season, will
Yeah.
they struggle with the goals? You do look, you do wonder where the goals are going to come from. Son, like I said, scored 3 last time out. Richarlison just cannot seem to score to save his life. I think he's got one Premier League goal for Spurs, and that was at
Yeah.
Anfield, which
I
was
think he's got more yellow cards for taking his shirt off for scoring offside goals than he has for
that's
Premier
it.
League goals.
And he seems to be suffering a lot off the pitch as well. I saw some quotes earlier this week. I think he was taken off after missing a big chance for Brazil when he was crying on the bench. Supposedly had
Yeah.
a lot going on in his personal life. They've brought in the likes of Brennan Johnson from Nottingham Forest, James Maddison there, of course, you mentioned, Pedro Porro, Mickey van der Ven from Wolfsburg, and Kulusevski, I think, was made permanent this summer from Juventus.
Yeah, he's a great
Um,
player. He's really, really, really good to keep him permanently.
yeah. Vicario as well in goal. It looks like Lloris is time. Lloris is he left Tottenham? I can't. I don't think.
I think he
I,
let me. He got stripped
yeah,
of the captaincy, but
he's still there.
yeah,
He,
I think with Vicario, I've watched a bit of Vicario this season. He does concern me a little bit. I think nowadays you have to be comfortable with the ball at your feet. And against Brentford on the opening day of the season, which is the only game that they've dropped points, by the way, he looked a bit suspect. But it takes time, and as he develops through the season, he may get more comfortable. The club must have seen something in him to bring him in. But I just want to go back to Richarlison there that you mentioned. He has been poor in front of goal for Tottenham, but it is hard to shine when you've got Harry Kane, who is, again, it pains me, but he's one of the greatest strikers of his generation. He's not won any trophies, but you know, it's a team game football. Just look at the goals, look at his assists as well. He's not just a goal machine. He's such a complete player. So when you've got such a complete player in your team, it's really hard for anyone else to shine. So this is a big season for Richarlison, and I think he needs to get some goals this season, and he can. He's shown what he can do. You don't start for Brazil for no reason. He's keeping Jesus on the bench, so he is a good player. And like I said, you spoke about the lack of goals, and as they get deeper into the season, that could be a worry. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on his shoulders, but he can do it. He can do it, and they don't have European football, which is a big thing. Obviously, Spurs are not going to be happy about that, but it allows them a platform to really build because they don't have that fatigue that they otherwise might have. They don't have that distraction. They can really focus on the league. They're second now, so they've already got a lot of points on the board. And we expect them to get 3 more points. I mean, look, oh god, he's put the table up again. I don't want to see it.
You've mentioned there the lack of European football. Like you said, it's probably not the preference of the Tottenham fans heading into the season. But I remember watching Liverpool when Jurgen Klopp first came in his first season, didn't have European football, and you could see that really did do them good almost. And that was the year they got back into the Champions League. I think that's important for Tottenham now. Whether they can get back in the top 4 or the top 5 now as it is this year, I'm unsure. But I think it's about taking steps and to put the foundations in place to facilitate that. It's not going to be an overnight thing. We've seen the struggles of Tottenham. It's not anything new. They've been struggling now for 4 or 5 years ever since that Mauricio Pochettino left. What would you say is a reasonable expectation for Tottenham this year before we move on to Sheffield United?
I think top 6. I think it's hard. It's hard now because you've got more teams who can compete. Like we spoke about in the last video. Make sure you give it a watch. Brighton are up there. Manchester United, for all their issues, are always going to be around about there. Newcastle have received massive investment for Saudi Arabia. We got in the Champions League last season, though. That they're going to be up there. Liverpool, you expect them to bounce back. They've had a good start to the season. Crystal Palace, Chelsea will get better. They will improve. They're not going to have another season like last season. So it is going to be hard. But, after looking at every team this season, you could argue that Tottenham are second in the table. You could argue that they play the second best out of everyone apart from Manchester City.
Mm-hmm. And then moving on to Sheffield United now, I'm just looking at a list of their incomings. They brought in Cameron Archer, centre forward from Aston Villa. Gustavo Hammer, a defensive midfielder from Coventry. Vinny Souza, same position from Malamo SK. What are you? A few other players, Tom Davis as well from Everton, who's got Premier League experience. James McAtee, who's on loan from Manchester City. Luke Thomas on loan from Leicester.
Brought a lot of players.
Yeah, a lot of players, and I think you mentioned earlier on in the video, their form so far. They've played the Everton game. You mentioned that, and that is a game which, like you said, if you have aspirations of staying in this league, it looks like Everton are going to be back down there this year. Their games at home, where you really need to be winning. I think for teams, especially for those further down the table, that the home games are the important games. You wanted to almost make that place a difficult place to come, get all your points at home, and then take your chances on the road. I think if you aren't getting your wins at home, it's hard to stand any chance of staying in the league.
It is, yeah. I mean, they almost won it right at the end. It was, great a great double save by Jordan Pickford. Although, and I might get abused for this, but the first save looked better than what it was. Jordan Pickford sort of made a little bit of a mess of it and pushed it onto the bar, so it looked better. But I'm sorry about that. But I know it's been lauded for that save, but I don't think it was as good as what people make out. But even still, I think you're just going to be hard to beat. And I think, in the first season back in the Premier League, you've just got to make sure that you are hard to beat. If you're not winning games, make sure you don't lose them. They have brought in a lot of players, which can be a concern. I remember a few years ago when Everton brought in, they sold Lukaku and they brought in a lot of players. Didn't work out for them. But last season, I was worried about Nottingham Forest because they brought in about 47 million players. And, it worked for them. They stayed in the Premier League. That was their goal. So, it'd be interesting to see how they do. Games like this, away against Tottenham won't define them. If they lose 2-3, it's not going to concern them. I think what Paul Higginbottom's going to be looking for is the performance and how they're set up, how easy it is or how difficult it is for Tottenham to score. But yeah, I think Sheffield have had a bit of a difficult start to the season because this is a difficult game. They face Manchester City and they played well against City. But yeah, it'd be interesting. I think looking at the Premier League table, there's quite a few teams where I'm looking at that really could struggle. So if we head down there, we see Sheffield sort of, they're just outside the relegation zone, 1 point, same as Everton. And then you've got Luton and Burnley. We've spoken about Luton. Burnley we'll speak about soon, who I think could struggle. But yeah, it's just about staying in the Premier League. Doesn't matter how you do it. Doesn't matter if you just set up to be absolutely boring. Just make sure you're tight at the back, get points on the board at home. Look at Forest last season; they did it brilliantly. They made the City Ground an absolute fortress. That's what Sheffield need to do at Bramall Lane.
Yeah, I think you can see that bottom four there. I wouldn't be surprised if that is the bottom four this season, not in that order necessarily. But I think that they're four of the teams which are going to be in and around there. I think we've mentioned the home game. Sheffield United fans will be screaming at me if I don't mention the Man City game, which obviously I know they lost, but they did put up a fight. They looked like they
were fantastic.
They bagged a late equaliser through Jadon Bogle, only for Rodri to run up the other end a couple of minutes later and score an absolute screamer. But they've got to take some hope from that, haven't they, as well? They're pushing not only the best side in the league, but probably the best side in the world at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. And, you was looking there, you said that you wouldn't be surprised if the bottom four there stays like that. If it stays exactly like that, let me tell you, Sheffield are going to be absolutely delighted. Even if it's on goal difference, they'll be absolutely delighted with that.
I'm just looking at the injuries now. We've got Rodrigo Bentancur, Sessegnon, Brian Gill, and Lo Celso out for Tottenham. Sheffield United got 11 players out. I think that would be somewhat of a concern. Max Lowe, Ben Osborne, John Fleck, Ryan Brewster, George Baldock, John Egan, Anel Ahmed Hodzic. Sorry, I probably butchered that. Tom Davis.
Right. I butchered Postecoglou's name, so we'll let you on.
So they've got a few players out injured already, which isn't ideal at this stage of the season. Let's talk about the predictions, Connor. What are you going for in this game?
Well, I'm predicting a Spurs win. I'm going to go with 3-0 Tottenham Hotspur. But even though that's my prediction, the value is not there. I really don't think the value is there. And if you're putting it on as a single bet or in an ACCA, I would either keep it off or I would be looking at a draw or a Sheffield United win. Like I said, 11-1 for any team in the Premier League I think is huge value. They played well against Manchester City. Then they got a point against Everton. Draw over 5-1. That's where the value is, but I do think Spurs do win 3-0.
Yeah, 3-0 is the score I was going to go for as well. And I'm going to go one extra. Richarlison to get his first goal of the season. Even as
I'm not going to go that far.
A former Everton player, I'm a Liverpool fan, but couldn't help but feel sorry for him on the bench with that. I'm going to back him to bag his first goal. That's our prediction for Tottenham and Sheffield United. Let us know yours in the comments below and check out our other predictions of the game so far this weekend. Next up, we have got, let me just look while it loads on.
Looks like West Ham versus Manchester City. League leaders versus European champions. Well,
There you
European
go.
champion versus European champion.
Yeah. There we go. Check that video out. We'll see you there.